Welcome to an IronCAD Tech Tip video. In this video, we're going to create this bench vise. This is commonly found on the internet in some of the CAD systems to design this, and we thought we would design this in IronCAD to show you some of the differences of how we design this versus other systems. As you can imagine, this is a couple parts here. This is multiple assemblies. We got the main orange piece of the vise, our green slider, our shaft and turner, and then we got some bottom pieces here with some fastener components. So most of this is built in IronCAD without using any sketches, so we'll go ahead and show you how to do that, and some things we will use sketches, so we'll show you that as well. So it's a good overview video. This is going to be a fairly long one since we're going to build each part piece by piece and show you how it's done inside of IronCAD's single scene environment to build it in place, and we'll go ahead and get started. And I'll keep bringing this back and forth so we can see some of this. So first, let's go ahead and start with our first part of this, which is the bench vise base here. So we'll have some dimensional information here that defines the overall size of this, the length, and the width. And we also have, a chamfer back here in the back, and we've got this component up here that's got some radiuses inside of here, and it's defined by this angle value here. So we'll go ahead and show you how we can do this in IronCAD. So let's go ahead and move it over, and I'll put this onto another screen and use it as a reference. So the first thing I'm going to do is start with the drag and drop of our rectangular extrude here, and we can set the size of this so we know the overall length is 144, so we can just type in our values on our size box handles here. These are our IntelliShape size box handles that you see, and when you hit enter, it toggles over to the width handle, then it'll toggle over to the height handle. So we're on the width now, and we know this is got an overall width of 64, and the thickness of the base of this component is 16 millimeters. So we'll go ahead and set that as well. So that kind of gives us our starting point for our model. Next, we're going to go ahead and build this back piece here. We could again drag and drop another part on here, size it and snap it. I will show another alternative to that as well, so we can actually select down to our face handles, and we have a handle here that will actually start another feature which we can just pull up and use all of our reference information, because we know we need to be aligned to this back edge and to the sides, so we can quickly use that. And we know the overall height of this is actually 36, so we can set our 36 value, and then we know our thickness of this is actually 26, so we just simply edit the distance from point from here, and we'll select 26. So that gives us our second extension here, feature on our part. We'll go ahead and add our chamfer to this, which is a 16 millimeter chamfer in both directions, so we can just do a distance angle or distance. In this case, like I said, it is 16 millimeter and 16 millimeter. On that, you can see the preview and hit enter to apply. So that gives us our starting point for our shape here. Okay. The next thing we want to do is we can do our component up here, and a couple ways to do this is we can use start with a cylinder shape, moving that up, and then adding some features to that, which is a good way to approach this. So we'll go ahead and start with a cylinder. We're going to snap it right here onto the center point, and we know it's going to go into this part at a thickness of 22, so we're just going to flip this to start off with and set the distance to 22. Sorry, that's the diameter. The distance is 22. The diameter on that guy is actually 16 millimeter radius, so the diameter is 32 on that. And we know the height of this, again, is going to be directly snapped to the same height as this. So the top of this cylinder, which we're going to move using the tri-ball, by just simply hitting our space bar, we can move this up to our top quadrant point, and then simply just snap this up to the top. So that kind of gives us our reference location for our shape. Next, we can go in here, and our features, if you haven't watched some of our other videos, all of our features do have cross sections in there. So you can actually edit the cross sections by right clicking and selecting edit cross section, or hitting Alt E. It'll take you into the cross section mode. And what we want to do is draw our two lines here and put our angle information on this. So what I'm going to do first is just going to head and lock this guy into position. So I'm going to lock him so he doesn't move when I make any changes, and we can just draw our angles here. So to do that, we can just draw 2-point lines, or we can actually use another tool here, which is a tangency line. And what we're going to do is we're going to draw a tangency line to this down through this point here, and we're going to trim those off and basically get our final line. So a couple things we can do. First, let's go ahead and reference this edge down here so we know how far to drag down to. And what we're going to do is just draw this tangency again. We're going to select the arc, and we know we can just move this around to get whatever tangents we want. We don't know the length of this, but we do know the angle for this thing. So we can right click and type in the angle for this. In this case, it's got to have a total of 50 on both sides of those from center to center. It's from this angle to this angle is actually 50. So it's just a calculation there. So it's 25 minus the other side. So we're talking at 65 there onto that. So then we can do the same thing onto the other side here. Again, we're on the tangent command still. We can pull that down. It's going to maintain that. And again, we'll go in here. On this, guys, it gave us that angle. So we're just going to have to put on the 90 plus 25 on that one, which is the 150 inside there. So if we wanted to get an angle dimension, we can put that on there to type that to get the 50. If we wanted to put the lines down at whatever random angle, we could use a constraint dimension to drive those as well. So that's an alternative. But anyways, I'm just doing some math here just to give our angles. And now we basically have our shape, and we can just trim out what we don't need. So we're going to use the inner part of this geometry, sorry, the outer part of this geometry here, and get rid of all the extra lines that we don't need. And we're just going to hit finish, and that will give us our shape. And last it had on there was a fillet on these corners here, and I believe, let me double check, that is 3 millimeters. So we're just going to right click, type in 3 millimeters for that, and we can come over and get the other side as well and enter on that as well. So now we've got our base shape here for our model. One thing it does add to this is a hole here on the end, which has a diameter of 16. So we'll go ahead and drag and drop that out onto our center point. And it has a diameter of 16 on that one. And we can leave it the length it is, or just snap it to the end. Either one will work in our geometry. So that kind of gives us our starting point here for our model. Last, there is actually a cutout here on this end here. So we can do this in, again, similar to the way we did this one, is we can drop a shape, edit the cross section, and make it's basically a two cut shape, or we can just use two drop features. For example, I'll just use an extrude cut. I'm gonna drop right on the center, and that will get us all the way through our model. And I'm gonna line up this bottom so I know my overall height, which the first one on this is actually, let's see, 7 millimeters high on that, and the width on this guy, if we right click, we can do a symmetrical sizing, is actually 32. So we got our first hole, it's got that distance there, and we'll go ahead and add our next hole using the same extrude cut inside of here, and we'll drag and drop that one on there. Again, we can refer to the bottom edge because we know the overall height of this guy actually is, let's see, 16 again. So we can put 16 on that one, and then the width on this one, again, symmetrically dragging with the right click, we're going to set that to 16 as well. So that will give us our cut through there as well. So that's kind of the base of that model. And the last thing it adds is some holes onto this part, and they're spaced out 38 millimeters from this end, and then 70 to the next hole placement. So what I'm going to do, this is actually just a simple hole, and we can do this multiple ways. It looks like it's got a little angle on the bottom there. It doesn't really give us information on it other than it's a 6 diameter hole. So I'm going to use some of our IronCAD mechanical tools. I'm going to drag and drop this out. And again, I can drop this anywhere. I can drop it on to this point here, and we're going to use a hole feature into this. And this is going to be just a simple hole in this side, and again, it's a 6 millimeter. So let's put 6 millimeter inside of there. And if we want to have a flat hole, we can do that, or we don't want this to be through. We're going to actually set a depth of this. So the whole depth on this guy is actually 10 millimeters, and we'll go ahead and give an angle at the bottom. I guess we'll just leave 118. They didn't really give us any size there, so we'll just use 118 as a default for that, but we have multiple different angles that we could set in there, but we'll just use that one as our point of reference. So once we've got that done, we can go ahead and hit OK, and notice it already puts the tribal on for us, and we can just simply move this in 38 millimeters on that model. And since we dropped on the center point there, we're already on the center point of that face. But the reference dimension they gave us is actually 10 millimeters from this edge, and then 44 over there. So just to refer to that, so if we wanted to say how far are we from this actual edge here, we're at 8, so we'll go ahead and set that to 10 millimeters to set that offset from there. So that is our location of our hole in there. And we'll go ahead and make another copy of this. And what we're going to do in this case is make a linked copy. So it's a linked reference geometry. So if we make a change to one, the other one will change as well. And it's got a 70 millimeter on that distance from center to center. And next we'll select both of those holes using our shift key. And again, we'll right click and drag this, make a linked reference of that, and it's got a distance of 44. So that's how we can create that base plate our base using IronCAD's drag and drop feature. So this is just a simple part design, and again, this is our base, so let's go ahead and name that as our base as a part here. And next we're going to go ahead and build the next shape to this. So we'll move this back over so you can see. We're going to go ahead and build this the jaw feature inside of here. So we're going to use a lot of the existing reference information inside of here and just adjust some things to get that. So it's got basically it has the same arc shape that we had before, but it's got a flat plate back here on the back, and it's got a hole at the top and on the bottom of this part. So let's go ahead and move into that design. So what we want to do is we want to reuse this existing geometry inside of here, and to do that we're just going to start a new extrude command, and we're going to say just go ahead and create a new part, and we're going to create it right off of that face there. And the thickness on that originally is going to be 22. Well, the total thickness of this guy is actually 32. So let's just go ahead and set it to 32 for the extrude distance here. 32. There we go. Hit OK to place that. Now this is a separate part since we created that. And we can just use our tribal here again just to move it off here. It doesn't really matter where it's sitting at this point. So we'll just move this off that back piece, so you can see that this is two different parts here. We'll go ahead and name it so we can distinguish these two. This is the jaw here as well on that part. So one of the things that it has, I mentioned, is it's got a flat piece on the back here. So what I'm going to do is just drag and drop a extrude feature on here, and I'm going to flip it in the opposite direction inside of there, and it's got a thickness of 10 millimeters. Now the width of this is 64, so we can just right click and drag this out, and it's 64 inside of there, so it's essentially aligned up with our other part as well. So we're going to snap this up, basically create an alignment. So now we've got that back piece here. The height of this object is 36, so again we can just use our handles. It's probably the same height as the other one, so we can just snap, or we can type in 36 to be precise. Either way will give us that. So now we have that shape there as well. So again, this one's got the same diameter on the top, and it's got a different hole on this one. So what we want to do is change this this inner hole here. It's got a different diameter, so we're going to say edit distance from our center point of itself, and it's going to say, well, it's got an 8 millimeter shape there, and it's going to be a 12 diameter. But okay, so we can't really edit this one because this one goes all the way through to the back side. Let me cancel out that. So what I mean by that is it's going all the way through to our original shape. Then I added this material here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this particular hole and just drag a new feature onto it. So to do that, I can edit the cross section. To do that again, I can just go into Alt E, and we can hide all the geometry so we can see our sketch. We don't need that hole, and we hit finish to get back to that. So now we've got it there. So now we can just drop our hole here that we want, which is going to be a diameter of 12 and a depth of 24 on this. So we're going to go to our depth by hitting enter a couple times. There are back handles yellow, so we're driving that back one at a depth of 24. So you can see that's 24 depth there. So that places our hole 24 deep and at a 12-inch diameter. These blends here are, so this is interesting. So now our model, when we first built this, was off this face. It went all the way down to the bottom face. In this case, we're actually going to add some geometry to this part. So it actually has a 10 millimeter base, and this is going to put the blend up here on the top. So we can either leave those there, cut it off, whichever one you want, but we're just going to add another base element to this. So let's just go ahead and drag and drop another feature. I'm going to put it right on the center. Again, I'm going to line it to the bottom, set the height of that to be 10. The width of this is going to be aligned to here, so I can just snap to our side, and now I can just pull these in to our models and snap to the existing geometry here. So we could have done extrude like that and drew a rectangle and extrude it. Easy to do that as well, but we just did it a different way. Inside of there, it didn't really matter to us. So we're just going to go ahead and put our blend on here again. It's got a 3mm blend on both sides of that. And we can hit OK. All right, so now we've got that part. So I'm going to change these colors a little bit. Now that I'm looking at this, it doesn't look so good to have them both the same. So our base part, I believe, is going to be like an orange part here. And we're going to be working on a green here. So let's go ahead and just change that one to a greenish color, so we can see this a little bit better there. Now we got this model basically created here. We have a piece in the bottom that we need to build, so we're just going to rotate down to the bottom of this, and on the base of that, it's got a 16mm wide I guess slider here, so we'll just go ahead and drag and drop a feature right onto the side here, and it is 16mm wide, so we'll just change that to 16mm, and we're just going to snap it to the overall length of this model as well. So we're just going to right click and drag this in, and we're going to hold our shift key down and snap to that face. There we go. So now we've got that set there. We just need to set the depth on that, which is 9mm. So we can go in here, grab our last handle, set it to 9. Okay, so that gives us basically our shape, and now we're going to put some holes on here. So it's got 2 holes onto this this shape. So it's got one from the front here that's 8mm back, then a 16mm inside of here. So let's go ahead and do the same thing that we did before. We're going to go ahead and use our mechanical tools. I'm going to drop that hole onto that center point. In this case, this hole, let me find some information about these holes. I believe this is yeah, I guess these are 6 again, a 6 diameter hole. The depth of those is 16 in this case, and again, it doesn't give us the angle at the bottom, so we'll just go ahead and create that hole. And again, this is going to be moved off at a distance of 8mm, and we want to create another one, a linked copy down here that's got a distance of 16 from that first one. So that gives us our 2 holes there on the bottom, and last, it's got a hole in the top here. So the last one, this hole in the top, is going to be a counter bore hole. It's got a 10mm counter with a depth of 4 and a 6mm through hole. And the through hole means it's going through here. So we can just set the depth here to the center point of this, which, you know, we've got a 12mm, 16mm. Just move it to 16mm, we'll be cutting the hole through. So what we're going to do is just drag and drop again mechanical holes feature out here. I'm just going to drop it onto the center point here, then I'm going to move it after the fact. So we're just going to drop that, and it's positioning the wrong way, but we'll move it with the tri-ball, that's fine. So again, this has got a 6mm through. That's going to be a depth of 16, and actually we're going to do counter bore, so 16 inside of here, depth on that, and we're going to go ahead and set the counter bore. And it's got a counter bore diameter of 10mm, and the depth is 4 for that. So we're going to just type in those values there, so 6, 16, 10, 4. Hit OK to apply that, and what we're going to do is simply just rotate this over 90 degrees, and we're going to move it in. In this case, it's got an offset of 20mm from the back side of this model. So again, we can just use our tri-ball at a distance from point from our back edge. That's going to be 20mm from there. So that kind of builds that part there for us. So that's another way to build in place inside of IronCAD. So we've got the 2 parts here, and next we'll just hop over to our next part here, which is some components. So we've got a couple different ones. One is these plates on the bottom that we have to build with some holes on them, and then we've got our screw globes and screw bars. So let's go ahead and start with the base plate. Fairly simple to do here. Sorry, messing with my second screen. So let's go ahead and hop over to our bottom side here. So we're going to use this existing geometry inside of here, so we can reuse the holes that are there if we want. In the case, we're going to modify these to have a there's actually a countersunk hole on it. So instead of reusing the geometry, I'm just going to drag and drop a new part out here. I just drag and drop it on here, and notice that when I drop by left click, it adds it to the feature. So if we want a new part, we just right click and drag and do the same thing. We say IntelliShape feature. Oh, sorry, the wrong one. drag and drop and select drop as an innovative part. So now we have a new part. So it comes in a different color. We know it's not part of that feature anymore. Now I can just use my handles to align this, and we know the depth of this guy, or the thickness of this, is 6 millimeters. We know the depth from this guy is actually 20 inside there, so it does extend beyond this inside of there. So that's why we built it separately to begin with. So next we're going to drag and drop our holes on here to build this. And again, it's got a 36 and 70 spacing inside of there. So let's go ahead and drag and drop that out onto our model. Again, does it give us any centers? I guess it's just in the center of the model, doesn't really matter. So we're going to go ahead and do our mechanical tool. We'll drag and drop it on here. Again, this one is actually going to be a there we go, a countersunk hole inside of here, and we know this is going to have a 7 millimeter diameter. It's going to be through on that, and we're going to set the angle and depth on this one. So we need to know the angle is, they say, is 45, so we want to set that angle to be from, in this case it would actually be a 90-degree angle on that, and the depth on that is 3 millimeters on that one. So we're going to go ahead and set that for this, hit apply to place that, and then we can type in our values. So we can just do the values here, or we can just refer to existing geometry. For example, I can hold, I'll zoom in here a little bit so you can see this. So what we're going to do is we're going to align to this hole, because we know this is the same hole on the opposite side. We can just drag this over, hold our shift key down, or snap to that center point and move it there. So we're just moving that hole that exact distance. Now we're going to do the same thing to the other hole. Again, we can just right click, drag, get to that center point, or hold it to the edge with the shift key to get that center point. And this time we're going to say link here when we right click and drag that, by the way. We're going to link that at 70. So that's the 70, and that was the 38 to give the first one. So we didn't have to type any values, we just referred to existing geometry to create that. Next, we need to create one of these on the other side. So we'll just make a mirrored copy of this, and we can do that with a mirrored feature command, or a mirrored command, or we can just use our tribal to position this here on the midpoint of one of these edges. Right click on one of our orientation handles in the axis that we want to mirror about, and we're going to make a linked copy to the other side. So it's a very simple way to do that. And now we can select both of those and actually change color on those as well. Make those yellow, and this is our plate. So let's go ahead and make that the base plate inside of there. Since they're linked, both of them will update, and it also tells us that it's a mirrored reference of that part inside of there. So now we've got our base plates on there. We've got that one done, and next we are going to go ahead and do the jaw screw. So I'm going to put the jaw screw out in space, and then I'll position it in here so we can build it and then move it. So again, IronCAD is a single scene environment, so I don't have to have a new file. I can just drag and drop another shape out here. In this case, I'm going to do this jaw screw, and I'm just going to rotate it around so it's just easier to see in our screen. 90 degrees, doesn't really matter which way I'm going. So we've got this here, so we know the overall diameter on this guy is 16 on the middle of this part. So I'll show you this. This is our jaw screw here. So we got a diameter of 16 on the inner. It's got a bigger diameter out here. Gives you a bunch of diameters for all these and spacing for this, but not for this particular one. It gives you an overall dimension. So I'll show you how we'll get to that shape to do this. So what we're going to do on this one is we know again, the diameter on this one is 16 on this, and we know the length of that center part is 82. So we'll go ahead and start with our base shape here. So let's go to the right first, and what I'm going to do is essentially just repeat what I'm doing. I'm just going to drag and drop to the center point, set the diameter for these guys. So the next diameter in is a 12, I believe. Let's look at that. Yeah. 12 millimeter diameter, and the depth of that one is 10 to set that one. Next, we'll drop another one on here to the same thing, and it gives a diameter of this one is 18, and the total length of this is 24 for that. So that kind of builds that end of that piece. Next, we can go to the other one, the other end, and in this case, I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop that on there. Again, that one is 12 on that one, and we don't know the depth of this, so let's just go ahead and set it to 10 for now. So this is how we're going to calculate that one. So next we'll drop our next cylinder on here, and it has a diameter of 8 on that and a depth of 6. And we'll do the last one on here is back to our diameter of 12, depth of 7. Okay, so yes, you could have drawn this all in a sketch, spun it around. You can build this, but I like building it with these features because it's just easier for me to modify. So we know, in our case, we don't know we know the overall depth of this model inside of here is 138. So if we look at the model, so we can go in here and just look and see where we're sitting the way we built it now, is we know that the depth from here to our other side is actually 139. So the overall length is 138. So this one, instead of being 10, this is what we typed in, we just set it to 9. Now, if we look at it, we're at the 138. So that's just an easy way to adjust it. And since we built on top of these faces, everything moved in with it automatically. So that's just a nice way to build that particular part there. Last, we need to add a hole on this on the side here. So what we can do, again, this is just a 6mm through hole. We'll just use the same thing. Actually, since it's just a through hole, we'll just drag and drop a cylinder on here, set the diameter of that to 6. Use our tri-ball inside of here, and we're going to just turn this 90 degrees, and we're going to move it in. This comes in from the back side, 12mm in, and we just pulled it out with a tri-ball or pull with the handles, either one, it doesn't really matter. But now we've got our little through hole there. So that's all it takes to build that jaw screw, and I'll just give it a color as well. So now we've got that one out of the way. So we can go ahead and position this one because everything else kind of attaches to it. So if we want to position this, we can select the object, and we're going to put the tri-ball on for this. So what we do know is that this is going to probably be in line with this hole, the screw that's going to come through this hole at the top. So let's just go ahead and move this over to our reference location. In this case, it's going to be from this edge. That was a 6mm, so we're just going to move it in 3 more millimeters to be in the middle of that part. So now we're in the center. If we look at this, we're in the center of our part, and we're at 3mm. We can now do 2 things here. We can tell the tri-ball by right-clicking on the center point. We go to center point of this part, so we're going to snap it right to that center point. Now I'm going to lock the axis so it only moves along this axis because I want it to be aligned here. So I can either type in that distance, or I can just right-click on the center point again and say to center point of this, and now it will put our part. Sorry, here, if we rotate there, put our part right where my tri-ball is sitting inside of this piece, right at that location. So that gives us where we need to be positioned for this model. Okay, so now we've got that positioned, and that's, again, this part is our jaw screw. So let's type that in there, jaw screw. There we go, we got it all typed in there. So now we've got that set. So next, let's go back over to our PowerPoint here. So next we'll do the screw bar here. So a simple main cylinder, 2 small cylinders on the end. It's basically built it the same way we just built the last one. So we'll start with our initial cylinder. So one thing you can do, just if you want to, I'll show you that here in a second. So if we drop a cylinder out here, one thing you can do is actually right click on this and say hide unselected. So that just gives us our cylinder that we're working on. We don't have to see the other geometry. So nice little way to clean up your workspace inside of here. And we know this has a diameter of 6mm. The length of the overall is 104. So we're just going to type in 104 minus 20mm on each, or 10mm on each end. So that will give us our value. Oops, sorry, I typed in the wrong one there. So this is actually 84 this way. This one actually is our 6mm. There we go. So wrong handle there, but anyways, you can just adjust the handles again. So it's again 84 for the length on the long side, and then our 6mm diameter. And then we just drop our 2 10mm cylinders. So one thing you can do here when you zoom into IronCAD really close, notice when I drag and drop out here, this will adjust. So you can set a smaller shape inside of there. In this case, it sets it to 4. We're going to set that to a 10mm. Sorry, actually that was a 4mm diameter. So let's go ahead and back. 4mm diameter is what we want. We want 10mm for the length of this thing. So let's type in our 10mm there. And we can do the same thing on the other side. So go ahead and zoom in here. And so what it's doing is just resizing this down before, so I drag and drop onto our center point. So that's a precise center point. Hit OK. We got a 4mm diameter. Let's go ahead and set our length to 10mm. So that's all it takes to build that piece, which is our screw bar here. So let's go ahead. Here we go. Sorry. So this is the screw bar. So we typed that in there as well for the part. So now we've got that part there. We can give it another color as well. So let's just go ahead and give that one maybe a purplish color. Maybe that'll work fine. And then we can go back and right click and say show all. That will bring all of our models back. We can see this one sitting out here in space, and we want to put it in the center of this part. So what we can do is turn on our shape. We know this was 84 here, so we can put this in the center by just moving our space bar up, or hitting our space bar to move our tribal to white, so that we can move it. So that's just, if that was 84, so it's going to be 42 to get to our center point there. Now we hit our space bar again, and now we can move this. So what we want to do is we're going to place this over to our center point of our shape, and then we're going to rotate that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply just drag and drop it over here to here, and then I can just essentially rotate it 90 degrees, or I can use this handle here, our orientation handle, and I can align it to that axis. And then we can just simply move it over and say to center point to position it right inside. So you could have used a coincident constraint here as well. So you could have done concentric constraint from here to there to put that in the concentrics, and then put a dimension on here to position that. That's another way to do it as well. I'm just showing you some different ways that we do it in IronCAD than you would find in your typical systems. So next, now that we've got that done, we need to do these called their bar globes. So let's show you what those are. This little feature down here. So it doesn't give us actually this height value of this. So we'll just make an assumption to build that. But essentially, this we'll actually use in a sketch to build this because it's a spin shape. So let's go ahead and show you how we're going to do that. So we can build this one in place if we like. So we can go ahead and just say we're going to go ahead and build a spin shape inside of here. And we're going to create a standalone part, and we're going to put a new section on here. So we're going to do, we want to do it along normal to this face actually. So we'll go ahead and select this point, and let's go ahead and put the origin point here as well. So that's the way we want to spin this object around, and we're going to go ahead and hit OK to get us into that command. So if we want to see some stuff, so we can go back here and change it to display all, we can see what we're designing here. What we're going to do is just going to use our rectangle shape, and we're going to draw this down so we know it actually is a depth of 9mm, so it's going to be 4.5. Let's see, yeah, 9mm actually this way, and then we don't know this value. This is the one we don't know. So we do know this is going to be 9, and we're just going to make an assumption maybe 3mm or 4mm, something like that inside of there to draw this out. So we're going to just right click, and we know we want the width to be 9, and we'll go ahead and set this one to say, let's just set it to 4mm to set. The next thing we do know is actually that we have an arc that goes from here to here, and it has an arc value of radius of 6. So we're going to go ahead and set the radius of 6mm on that, and then we can just get rid of this inside line as we don't need that. So that's kind of our shape that we're going to do. We can connect these, or it'll do it automatically, but I'm just going to show you this. If you ever see red dots, you can right click to connect those points on side of there, or it'll do it when you hit the finish command. So that gives us our shape there for our base shape, and we can go ahead and hit finish, and that will spin our shape around and give us our basic shape for our globe. And now we need to add a hole to this. So to add our hole again, we want to put a hole on here using the mechanical tools. Again, you can try to pick the center point, but you don't know if it's picking that part there or this part here. So you can do a shift key and hold this, or again, you can just go in here, hide unselected to get to this part, in which we're going to drag and drop specifically to this part's center point. And we're going to put a hole on that, and this guy's hole, in this case, it is looks like a countersink. It doesn't really say. Oh yeah, this has a 45 on it, and it's going to be a through all. So it's going to be a through hole. It's got a diameter of 4 on side of there, and what the countersunk value is, it says 45. Again, that one will work for that 90, so it's 45 total, and it's depth of 1 on that. So let's go ahead and hit that to apply that, and that will give us our shape there. And again, we can give this a different color. Maybe we'll put a different color here. I don't know. Let's pick a light bluish color there. And we'll go back and hit show all to get our model back. So now that we have that sitting there, we can do a copy to the other side. So we turn our tribal on here. And what we're going to do is hit our space bar because the anchor could be somewhere in space. So we're going to go ahead and hit position the tribal. When we hit the space bar, we're going to position right to the center so that we can actually do, again, that same option on the orientation handles is to mirror link the other side. Okay, so that's what it takes to build this model in the assembly side. So last, we're going to go ahead and put the name for that one, bar globe, inside of there. Okay, last they have in the model is basically just some fasteners to tighten this down. There's actually, one more little plate here. It's on the components. There's a little plate on the bottom that we'll build, and this is the clamping plate, and then we have some screws and another type of screw here, that we can build as well. So let's go ahead and build these pieces here as well. So let's start with the clamping plate, which is really simple. The clamping plate is what is going on here. So again, we can just right click, drag and drop onto the center point, start a new part here, and we know the width of this is 32 inside of there, and it's also basically just a rectangle, or sorry, a square here, 32, and then we have a depth on this guy at 7 millimeters as well. So that's our plate there, so it just kind of fits nicely inside the model, and now it has countersunk hole on side of here. So again, we'll just drag and drop our mechanical tool on here. We'll drop that on, put our hole. In this case, it is going to be a countersunk value of 7. Through is fine, and it's going to be a 60, and a depth. Actually, this would be 120 actually total there, and it's got a depth of 5 inside of there. Let's see, that's, no, maybe this actually is 60, sorry. Set that to 65 depth, and we've got a 7 millimeter. So let's go ahead and place that on there, and we know that that's going to be offset a value of 8 and 16. So let's see if it's 8 from here. Let's see, move here, 8. Yep. And then we got to make a link of that again. So we just drag the same handle, make a link copy of that at a value of 16 inside of there. Okay, so that's our 2 holes there at the bottom. So that's the clamping plate inside of there. If we want to name that one as well, we can do that as well. Next, we can do the screws inside of here to basically populate these. So let's go ahead and do, let's see, I'm not sure where each one of these goes. So let's just do the ones for this first. So we're going to drop, we can go into our mechanical tools, like we can keep dragging this folder out, or you can go into it to directly drop out a fastener. Again, so you can drop directly onto geometry here if you like. And inside of here, holding the shift key down, that should place us in the center of that part for us automatically. And what we're going to do is we have different types of screws inside of here. So we've got, you know, different screw types, different ones that you can select. We're going to go and select one of these screw types here. So this is one way you can build it. These are some of the standard ones that we deliver. So this one actually has a depth to the height. So this is one way to build the shape. Another way is to build it with using just regular features inside of here, but we'll just use this one from the standard inside of here, and we know some values on this. We know, you know, these are just your standard types. So you just, you know, this is an M6 screw. What's the length of that overall screw? So in this case, it's a, you know, let's see, is that the length? Yeah, 18. 23 on that, so let's see if we can, yeah, we don't have a 23, we have 22 hole, then 18 a hole here at our depth here, so we have an 18 depth inside of there. If we want to use this tool, we can do that to build that particular shape there, or again, we can build this multiple different ways. So that's one way to build this. We also have another catalog inside of here, which is our tools catalog that has fasteners. Just want to show you both inside of here. So again, we can do the same drag and drop to the center of this guy. And this kind of, again, same thing, you have different screws, different types here. This one doesn't have that extra lip on it, so we can use that. We can also choose the different types here. Same thing, this is a metric screw. We know it's an M6 inside of here. We know the length of this is going to be, what did I say, 23 on this one. The pitch doesn't matter because we're not actually putting a thread on this. The bottom type is actually a cone type at the bottom inside of there, and we can hit OK to place that. So this one also tells us that there are links. When we drop down inside of there, do we want to copy that to all those? We'll go ahead and hit yes to that to link that to that other shape on the same part. We can also take this and move these and link these to the side using the same way we did the other one, is hitting the space bar, mirror, and link it to the other side. So that's another way to do this. Some things that I did notice in their dimensioning is they did want to alter this hole here. So if you look at this, we have the feature hole inside of here. So we can actually edit that cross section of that if we want to, just to see what values they were using. So they set a value from this guy, they did set it from here. They didn't want that to be 2 inch or 2 millimeter hole here, so this is to do it on both. We set that hole there. The depth is already set to 2 millimeters, so that's fine. Or we can just use a tri-ball to position it if we want. It's sitting at the bottom of that face right now, so if we wanted to know what's the depth of that hole, we can set that as well from here. There we go. Oops, sorry. We wanted to edit the distance from there, so if we want to say edit distance from point, we say we want to set that distance 2 millimeter down. From there, we can do that as well. And so make sure we extrude the forward condition through the part. There we go. Now we can set that depth from this top face 2 millimeter. So that's we can just alter those fasteners that we use, and since they're linked, they all updated for that. So that is one way to do those holes inside of there. And I think I might have used the wrong holes for these. I think that one was, these were the 5 millimeters if I recall. Yeah, those were the 5 millimeters. So these actually should be down here. So let's kind of save ourselves here. We'll just put this into a catalog for now, and we'll just drag and drop it out, holding our shift key down to there, and say yes to position that one there. So this one, these four, these are a little bit different. So it's the same M6, but it's got a different value. So let's modify that, go back to its add-on properties. It might break the links on this, which is okay. We'll just copy these again. So again, this one was 6 millimeter. Actually, the depth on this one is 14 on this one in this case, and cone bottom is fine. Hit OK to adjust that one. So that will give us the update for those as well. Inside of there, we can adjust those holes as well if we need to. So that gives us all our our holes for our countersunks and inside the part. The last one that we need to build is this oval one, so we can use one of the existing ones or adjust, build it manually inside of here. Let's see if we've got one of these inside of here. So let's go ahead and drag and drop a fastener out inside of here. In this case, it's just one of, let's see, we got a good shape that would use that. Yeah, it's sort of like this shape here. So let's just use that one. It's got a cut through it. We know the depth. Let's see, the diameter is a 6 again, so it's a 6 millimeter diameter. The depth on this one, let's see, we got a 7 millimeter depth on that, and we'll say a flat bottom on that as well. So this is one way to build this shape. Using that, we can adjust these as well. So you can go back to double click those to get that, or you can go into the cross section here again to adjust these things. If we wanted to adjust this up, for example, they have a certain depth. I'm trying to see if I can see this. I think it's 4 millimeters from the top. So if we wanted to edit that cross section, we can adjust it here. We can see what our length of this value is. So like in this case, this is 5. We want to set that down. Total is, what did I say? 4 millimeters. So we can set that 4 millimeters to adjust that up there for our part. So that's one way to modify that inside of there, is just to do that. And then we can modify this one as well to edit its cross section to basically move it up to our part here. So we just snap that up there, hit finish to adjust that. So that's just one way to adjust that. Last they did is a little bitty cylinder on the bottom, so we'll just add another cylinder going back to our regular catalogs here, and we're just drag and drop a cylinder here to the bottom. And again, We're going to set the diameter of that guy is 6 millimeter, no, sorry, 4, not bad, 4 millimeters on that, and it's got a depth of 1 on this one. So we'll select our bottom handle, set that to 1 inside of there. So that's kind of basically just kind of to set the screw here. So now we can just place this in place. Again, so our tri-ball, we want to set it down at the counter here. So let's make sure that our tri-ball is at the bottom of our part here. Now we can just say, go ahead and move this to the center point of that edge there to position that. Okay. So that's basically all it takes to build this in IronCAD. So again, these are all parts. And again, now if we want to make assemblies, you can make multiple assemblies. We can select all these inside of here. So let's, for example, let's just put all our screws in an assembly. We'll just select those, hit S. That's our assembly command there. So let's say that's our assembly for our screws inside of there. And then we can come in here and select our other parts. If we want to make a base, or just select everything together, holding Shift key. Again, I'm holding the S key to hit assembly, or you can go to our assembly menu here and select assembly as well. And this is our bench vise. So we'll just type bench vise, and that is how you can design and assemble this in IronCAD. So we just build in a single scene and just quickly assemble and disassemble again. So if we wanted to, make an assembly here and then decide, well, we don't want that assembly, we can quickly disassemble as well. Very easy and free form to change your assembly structure in IronCAD for your needs. So this is our model built from the bench vise components from the dimensions that we have. So anyways, this is using IronCAD's standard features. Again, regular starter catalog that we're using. All of the features are extrude cylinders inside of here, cuts, anything like that. And we also use some of the IronCAD mechanical tools for fasteners and holes inside of our part. And we can also use just regular tools to start off with as well. It's the same as our IronCAD mechanical, but a little bit more flexible to edit those individually. So hopefully everybody enjoyed this. This is just a sample model, how you can design an IronCAD in place for assembly design. Thanks for watching.